So yesterday, came back, first video, long time, and I got talking to y'all about my children, just spontaneously. Spoke about my Emerson, who's a queen. Spoke about my Simone, who's a warrior. Spoke about my Isabel, who is my little magician. And it's great. It's interesting. It's funny that, old Uncle E ended up with three daughters and they fill those spaces within what I learned about masculine archetypes, but of course they're universal. They don't just apply to men. Women have them too. And for a guy that a lot of people called misogynist, oh boy, I didn't want to go there yet. Even my daughters turned against me at one point. For a guy who is labeled as a misogynist for some of the shit that I used to say, which by the way, is like totally tamed today, but just 5 years ago, saying something like women and men are different, people thought I was crazy. That was one of the reasons why a lot of people left me also, right? Just saying shit is a recipe for saying truth is a recipe for getting attacked. Anyway, that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is I'd like to talk to y'all about my son. I'd like to talk to y'all about my son today. My son Benjamin. My son Benjamin is my lover. He's the lover in the family. And it's so strange because, of all the four archetypes, it's the one that I would probably relate to the least. At least most men think we relate to the least. But the truth is that we just wounded in our lover. Most of us are wounded severely in our lover. And depending on your character structure, right, the way your body is built and the way you breathe, it manifests in different ways. And my son, from structure to character, is a lover all over. All over. It's funny, I had a friend visit me maybe about 10 years ago. And he was into the archetype work too, because it's fascinating. And he said, let me characterize your children. Let me tell you which one I think is which. He had the first three nailed. And when, it was time to hear about Benjamin, all that was left was lover. And I was like confused, right? Because I'm like, well, he's the boy. He should be the king. He should be at least a warrior like his dad. But that's not his nature. That's not his character structure. He ain't built like me. And that's not his nature. He don't act like me. Me and my son are completely different, total opposites. And I know why God made him that way and gave him to me. I know why God gave me the daughters that I have and structured them that way. And I tell you, like with my daughters, I can forward with what's required for dominating in those areas, right? Like Emerson being my entrepreneur, I've been an entrepreneur since day one. So giving her feedback, giving her support, understanding the game that she's playing and being there for her, it's easy. And of course, Simone with lifting and Isabel with praying. I've always been a spiritual guy. Y'all could all relate to that. But my lover is like most tough guys, right? I'm a psychopath character structure. For those of y'all who know what I'm talking about, it don't come easy. It seems weak, right? Because all of our value in men is placed in what we can do, right? That's the magician, right? Like, what are you good at? What are you skilled at? We are very much judged by how much money we make. That's the sovereign aspect. That's the king, right? We can relate to that. You can relate to that. We get it, guys, right? What can you do? How much do you make? And the warrior it shows up on the body. And lift. You should be lifting. Women should be lifting too. Lift, physically active, physical vitality, the ability to exercise your will and aim in a direction and never take no as a value. Just go, 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 right? I relate to all three of those. When it comes to lover, for most of us, it's rooted in mommy wounds, also daddy wounds, but mainly mommy wounds. We project our anima, right? The feminine aspect of what we are as men, and I do believe that exists. Just look at today's relationships. The masculine in the woman is being provoked, and the feminine in man is being provoked, but in a perverted way, usually in a disjointed and disordered way. So the lover, though, aspect for most men is it shows up in the type of women we choose. That's that. I would Let me back up. It first shows up in where we find pleasure, where we get pleasure, because the lover is also recognized as the farmer, and the farmer is the aspect of the man that appreciates what's in front of him, recognizes that this is it, and he makes love to it until it produces fruit. But when you've got a wounded representation of love, a wounded understanding of love, it will usually show up in a desire for sensual gratification, feeling, addiction, fellas, addiction, fellas. If you're wondering where your lover is, he's operating out of his shadow aspect when you're jerking off the porn, when you're overeating, right? A lot of people, a lot of Christians in particular, they're all about like, don't drink, don't smoke, don't all these things. But especially down here in the South, we got a particular type of Christian. They'll just eat ho-hos and ding-dongs and barbecue and pop till the cows come home and forget that gluttony is a sin. But that gluttony is an aspect of the wounded lover. The wounded lover. So it makes you wonder, like, what does a well-ordered lover look like, right? And when I'm speaking, right, those of you guys who are fans, obviously it's mostly you guys who are subscribed or watching these videos. You know that when I'm speaking, oftentimes it's multidimensional. I'm not speaking about one thing. I'm talking about a lot of things. And when it comes to the lover aspect, my son carries the physical mark of a lover. I've made videos on how I've superimposed the character structures upon the masculine archetypes. So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, you don't just operate as a king, warrior, magician, lover. And of course we have all of them, but there's a predominant archetype. You look like one. I know they say don't judge a book by its cover, but when it comes to character structure, we follow this principle that we learn in exercise and fitness. I learned this in fitness, that form equals function. The way a thing is shaped is going to determine how it operates. And so in many ways, this is pseudoscience, glorified pseudoscience, meaning like it's soft. It's hard to really like say this shit is true. But when you look at the patterns, you recognize, oh shit. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's interesting, right? That's interesting how these patterns actually correlate. You look like a thing and you act like a thing, but in fact, it's not that mystical, right? Like a hammer that is shaped like a hammer is designed to do hammer shit. It can't do anything else. A sports car, because of its shape and because of its build, performs like a sports car. It won't perform like a Mack truck, and vice versa. No matter how much that Ferrari wants to, pull a load and drive over the open road, it ain't gonna do so. It's not built that way. But imagine that Ferrari was like, man, I wish I was big and tough like that Mack truck. Well, you could reverse engineer what the Mack truck is doing in your own mind and think that you're doing it. And you might fool some people for some time, but the fact is you're a Ferrari or you're a Mack truck, right? You're a hammer. You're not a screwdriver. So my son is built like a lover, meaning oral character structure. In fact, 3 out of my 4 children are built with that character structure, but various ends of the spectrum. Like Isabel is a magician, which is schizoid, super schizoid, but right next to schizoid on the character structure spectrum is oral. So she crosses into oral quite a bit. She acts very oral. Emerson is a queen, but she is a compensated oral, means she's like built like an oral, but she carries herself. She holds herself up. She holds herself together. My wife does the same thing. And my son Benjamin, he would he would collapse into his oral character structure if he didn't have me as a dad. What do I mean by that? So he's built like a lover. He's built oral, and what does that mean, being built oral? Oral, amongst many things, are usually very lanky and limp, right? They're kind of like, right? Their head usually juts forward. There's reasons for this. This is not a lesson on character structure, but this is my son. This is my son. And he's like 6'1" now, so he towers over me. And his tendency is to the oral collapse and towards addiction. That's the shadow aspect. I'll talk to you about his positive aspects, and just being transparent here. My wife heard me making these videos yesterday. She was in the bathroom. She's like, "I heard you making videos," and she's like, "Oh Lord, you're gonna spill all of our secrets. You're gonna talk all about us." Well, you know what? I'm not here to spill secrets. I'm here to be transparent. I'm here to tell the truth. I wouldn't say anything in these videos that I wouldn't want my children to hear. They live with me, so I've said these things, and they sort of get it. The positive aspect of my son as a lover is, number one, he's always willing to pour in. He's always willing to chip in. He's always willing to help. He wants to keep the peace. He wants to make his parents happy. He wants to see the people around him happy and comfortable and smiling. And he's also, what is unique is that he never collapses into laziness when asked to do something. These are the positive aspects of my son, who is by design oral, but by lifestyle compensated. My wife is a compensated oral. In fact, psychopaths like me, we generally attract lots of orals because orals love psychopaths and psychopaths love orals. I know I'm talking about a lot of different things here, but the psychopath loves to help, right? Likes to save, be the savior, and lovers love somebody who gives them that attention. They love that. So my wife is, and that's part of the reason why we have a great relationship. But my son is he's built like his mom, from his mom's side. That's where he gets his height from. He's probably going to be a lot taller because he's only 15. He's just starting to grow, so he's going to tower over his dad. But what makes him stand out as a 15-year-old, I'll talk about the shadow stuff in a minute, because he's just like a Gen Alpha young man, right? Like he's got the issues. All of us got the issues. But what makes him unique is how strong he is, because he lifts with his dad. I lift with him 3 times a week. We do a combination of bodybuilding, powerlifting, and strongman, right? And of course, there are corrective exercises. I did a lot. I started training with my kids when they're like 10. I started training when he was like 10. We did a lot of corrective stuff. He broke his foot when he was like 2 years old. So he's got like, muscular imbalances that have followed him, and it will probably follow him his entire life. But, beyond the muscular imbalances and getting him corrected, when he built a solid foundation, we started lifting. And you know what? You know what it is. Squats, deadlifts, presses, all these kinds of things. And pull-ups. He loves pull-ups. Because most kids his age, most of his friends cannot do pull-ups. He's a part of, like, my kids homeschooled when we moved out here. I'll talk about that in another session. When we moved out here, we took them out of schools, right? We'll talk about homeschool, another story, because, like, I was wanting to homeschool a long time ago, like 21 years ago, when my first daughter was born. But it was just one of those things I didn't fight for so hard. I just ended up making more money to send them to private schools that was no better than public schools, maybe even be worse. But my wife figured it out, like after the pandemic, I forced all the kids at home, and my wife was like, "Oh, it's not that bad. In fact, I like it. I like having my kids home." Most women would, but she was afraid, and I let her fear make that decision. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes I'm dealing with that right now. She's dealing with a fear about our living situation, our home. And I have to be vigilant against her fear. Anyway, what the heck am I talking about? I'm talking about my son, right? So he lifts, and that sets him apart and keeps his posture at least somewhat aligned, right? Because Oral wants to collapse, but he's held up strong. And so some of the negative aspects, right, Ben? If you're watching this, yeah, you know, a little lazy, right? He's neutral. He's neutral about everything. Like he doesn't get excited about anything. I remember taking him to he's not into sports. Not into sports. He's into video games, guys. How funny is that, right? I told you guys to smash your video game console, right? Because of all the addiction that you guys were struggling with when I was making videos 10 years ago. Well, guess what? I got my son now. I have talks with him. I absolutely do. He does fast and stuff like that. Fast from video games, but you know that's some of the negative aspects is just that. Like he is a pleasure seeker. He wants pleasure. He wants comfort. He likes to be cozy. He likes to sleep in. I mean, if that's the worst of it, fine. And he's 15, and with boys, here, let me tell you this. I don't I may sound like an expert in a lot of things because I just read a lot and I'm fascinated with stuff, but I'm figuring a lot of stuff out as I go along. And my son, like, I learn from him. I learn from him that, like, it's okay to seek pleasure. It's okay to be comfortable. It's okay to take a break. Here's what I was going to say that I forgot, you know. I had him in sports. I had him. He didn't want to. He's not into sports. But we put him in baseball because one day he was swinging the bat, and we were like, "Well, he needs to do something." I'll tell you what he does in a moment because we have him like he's always active. In fact, he starts a new job tomorrow as a summer camp. But I remember, so I hired a one-on-one baseball coach for him, and the coach he told me what I already know. He told me what I already knew because I would leave them and I would go do something. I'd come back. Sometimes I stick around. And one day I came back after they were training, and he goes, your son's favorite spot on the baseball field is right there. You know what he points to? He points to the dugout. He likes that bench. He likes that, and he does. Me, when I was a kid, you couldn't get me to sit on the bench. In fact, I remember I had to sit on the bench once, and I cried. I was injured, so my coach didn't want to let me play. It was football for me. And I had to sit on the bench, and I was so miserable. I was so mad. I was so ashamed. My son, his favorite spot is right on the bench. He wants to sit down. He wants to sit down. And it's so funny because the biggest lesson I learned over this past year in particular is the value of sitting down. Just sit down. Let the things work itself out. I had a teacher that once said to me, Elliott, she said, don't have an agenda. Don't chase anything. Let it all come to you. That's hard to do for a guy like me. I'm a psychopath that needs to go out and get it, go after it. But my son, that comes so naturally. He doesn't get upset and he doesn't get excited. He just says, yeah, okay, yes, dad, yes, mom. He does. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. He does what he's told. So we had him in Civil Air Patrol. My wife is a busybody, and she cannot stand for the kids to not be doing anything. Me too, but she's adamant about activities. So we had him in Civil Air Patrol. If you don't know what that is, it's like a youth branch of the Air Force. Because one day he said he wanted to fly airplanes, but I don't think he actually wanted to fly airplanes. He just wants to be in the sky somewhere. When he was like 10 years old, we were driving in the car once. And, with my daughters, if they were driving in the car with me, they're always striking up conversations. They can't help it. They are, they have things they want to ask me about, things they want to tell me about, music they want me to hear. But I'm driving in my car with my son, picking him up after school, right, from the bus stop or something like that. And he's just staring. He's just staring off. You know, you would think like if he had his headphones on, he'd be distracted, or if he's looking at a phone, but he didn't have a cell phone back then. Looking at a phone, like just being antisocial. I remember being 14, I had a Walkman. Remember Walkmans? I had a Walkman with, I put a tape in it, put it in my back pocket, and I go walking, right? But like I'll be with my family and I have my headphones on. I would, you know, you think like this is a new thing with the kids and the screens, bro. It was the same thing, except I was listening to YBT, you know what I'm talking about probably, in the 1990s, my headphones on, but he didn't have any headphones on. He was just staring. He was just staring out the window. I asked him, I'm like, what you thinking about? Right? Because the daughters will spill everything that they're thinking about. What are you thinking about? And he didn't have an answer. See what he told me? He says, white. Wait, what are you talking about? White. It says, I just see white. That's what he's doing when he's staring out. He's not thinking about anything, he's not stressing about anything, he's not anticipating anything, he's not judging anything. He literally is blanked out like he's meditating. He's meditating, doesn't even know he's meditating. He's smart, he's clever, he can do shit, he's capable, he's able. But he's just a lover. He's just in love with life, and everything's all right. Nothing's wrong. When he was young, though, he would get very angry, and I was tipped off to his oral character structure when he was very young because of how he used to get angry. He would bite. His sisters would piss him off, and you know when he's pissed off because you would just see this. His hands would go out like this, and his mouth would open up. Ah! And if he caught you, he would bite you. I was like, in my back then, I was big into. I was getting bioenergetic training and therapy from Dr. Glazier before he died, and I told him about that. I was like, "Yeah, Benjamin is a biter." He's like, "Well, you know, that's typical for most orals." And when I heard that, he was like 2 years old, 3 years old, and I was like, "Oh, my son's an oral." I mean, I must have known, but once again, like when my friend said he was a lover, I was like, "Oh," because it's almost like the complete opposite. It's almost like the complete opposite of me. You guys who like, I get it. I read your comments sometimes. You're like, "Yo, Elliot, I wish you were my dad," and I honor that. Like I'm like, God bless you. You know, praise the Lord, and you know, I understand why you're saying that. Fatherhood is taking quite a hit these past few generations. Um, and I always imagine having a son like you guys. Now watch me, a son that will be like me, a son that will be like me. I guess my dad struggles too because you know he's got three sons and a daughter. And I think his daughter, my sister's probably the most like him, but we're all like him. But I wonder if my dad was ever like, oh, I wish because like, I am like my dad, but I'm not like my dad. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but like, I just imagined I'll have a son that's like me, but he's not. And that's been the biggest lesson. That's what I learned. That's what I learned. That masculinity isn't just me, isn't just like me. And I like to think of myself as a masculine man. Just by my nature. By my nature, I have a lot of toxic masculine traits, but a lot of masculine virtue. And I'm not bragging when I say that. I just know myself. And I just imagined that my son would be like that too. But with the good on my end, right? It comes the bad. With the light comes the shadow. No matter what your character structure, no matter what you're like, that's why when Robert Moore spoke about these character structures, he didn't just, he talked about the archetype, right, the spiritual aspect. He didn't just speak about them in terms of their resourceful nature, their light. He spoke about their shadows. Spoke about their shadows, and a lot of what I took for masculine virtue is like shadow masculinity. And so I got to see like the concomitant representation of that in my son. He's strong, he's tall, he's good looking, got a deep voice, but his softness has taught me a lot about love. Not just love for others, but love for myself. Learning how to love the part of me that he reflects that I could never see. I had to learn how to sit on the bench. You understand what I'm saying? And instead of me like, you would imagine that I might be like hard on him, right? Like I should be hard on him, right? And I am when I need to be. Absolutely, he's got responsibilities. He's got to get his responsibility done, but he gets them done. He does them. But when I see him being not like me, being different, I marvel because I'm like, wow, that's interesting. There's a lot that I could learn there. I might not agree with that. I know I wouldn't be like that. I wouldn't choose that, but maybe there's something I'm not seeing because of the way I'm formed. And I can actually learn from him. I've learned a lot from all of my children. Not that they're teaching me anything with their words, which doesn't mean that they can't, but through observation and then also reflection on my reaction to who they are and how they show up. Like, for example, my oldest, Isabel, one thing I learned about her is that she shows up how I show up spiritually. How wherever I'm at spiritually, if I'm lukewarm, she's lukewarm. If I'm on fire, she's on fire. If I'm praying for her, life goes well. If I am not praying for her, she struggles. She's your typical magician. She wanted to be a nun. After her reversion, she was like very strongly discerning of going into a monastery. She wanted to be a Carmelite. You know what a Carmelite is? A Carmelite is a nun that once they enter, they make a vow. You have a decision to make to take perpetual vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, but also to be cloistered. So a cloistered nun, as opposed to, there are all different types of nuns. There's teaching nuns and stuff, service nuns. A cloistered nun, their entire job, all they're meant to do is to set themselves apart from the world and pray. That's what she wanted to do. That means that once you go in, you don't see your family again. It's like going to the military for good. And a woman who becomes a nun, their spouse is Jesus Christ. So they do get married in a way, but they're marrying Jesus Christ. This is where she was. I learned so much. She caused me to change. She caused me to grow. She caused me to question myself spiritually. I learned so much from her. She's married now. She got married, and I'm going to be a grandfather. She married one of my students, my King Transformation students, one of y'all. How strange is that? I had a workshop at my house, and she and the young man hit it off. It's been a year so far. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot from her. I learned a lot from Emerson as an entrepreneur. Like, she is a better entrepreneur than me in many ways because my nature is to build and burn. My nature is new ideas, new stuff, for me to work on something, I have to feel the spark. But she's consistent. She's disciplined and consistent. And she's been doing the work that she's doing, and she's growing it. And she's not looking for new things. She's not looking to add to it. She's not looking to spice it up. She's not. So I learned a lot about like that sovereign attitude from her. That I'm not a great entrepreneurial king, put it that way. I'm more of a magician in my entrepreneur aspect because of my inconsistency, ADHD. I don't say that to blame. I say that to acknowledge the truth about who I am. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot from her. She also is very good with money. In other words, she and my other daughters, they save and invest their money. I told you yesterday about how my dad was like, I hate money. Burns a hole in my pocket. When I have it, I spend it. That was my attitude. It was ingrained in me. And I wish I was different. I wish I was different. I could be different, but that was, not just you know, a part. I'm sure it has something to do with my nature, but also because of the nurture is what I learned. So she's a good saver. She's a good investor. All sovereign aspects. You know, Simone, she's the most like me character structure wise. She's built like she's jacked. Yesterday she was flexing double buys. I'm like, damn, she's built like me. She's got big shoulders. She's she's definitely a warrior. She's definitely a warrior. And I learned from her by watching how she is because she's a lot like me. So for example, this week, her cousin or my cousin, her second cousin, signed up for a high rocks competition. And Simone saw that and was like, oh my God, I need that. I want to do that. We've talked about doing competitions before in the past, but she was so amped up, so on fire, so passionate about seeing what her cousins are doing that she went and signed up for a CrossFit competition without thinking about it and it really just like impulsively. And then I came home and she told me about it, and I looked at the competition. I was like, "Babe, this doesn't fit you. I can't help you with this. It's all like Olympic lifts and rope climbing." I'm like, "I can't do any of that shit. My Olympic lifting is horrible, and my rope climbing is terrible." But the reason why I tell you that is because like I know what she's doing. She just want to fucking take action. Let's go, whatever it is, I'll figure it out. I had to slow her down because I saw an aspect of myself, and I'm like, listen, just because like we are fired up about something doesn't mean that we need to take action right away. Sometimes you got to let that fire sort of simmer a little bit and then move from that place. So those are my four children. And I figured since I'm doing this new series where I don't even want to call this a new series because then there's the pressure to like make it a series. It's not a fucking series. This is your old Uncle Yo showing up on YouTube, just being vulnerable, sharing the truth, telling you where I'm at, telling you what's going on. And maybe, just maybe, something I share with you is valuable to you. If not, maybe it's just the entertainment value or the voyeurism of getting to see what's going on in the life of me. Right? And maybe you're interested. Maybe you're interested because I offered you something that changed the trajectory of your life when you were young. And I think it's good that you get to see me in my darkest. I, Somebody mentioned this in one of the comments. He was like, "Oh boy, here we go again. Elliott showing up and apologizing for for how he's been, and he's just gonna try to sell us something and disappear again." And that's fair. That's fair because that has been my pattern for the past 10 years. And I can have all the excuses in the book. The bottom line is that it's inconsistency. I can make sense of it by saying that, it has a lot to do with my lack of self-worth. I can also look at it and recognize that this has been a season of healing for me. This has absolutely been a season of healing. I think maybe tomorrow or sometime in one of these next few videos, I'll talk to you guys about what actually happened here at the ranch when we moved here in 2021. I thought it was going to be one thing, and the Lord showed me something different. He's like, it ain't going to be what you think it is, Big E. I came here and I went right to work. I planted an orchard. It all fucking died. I had cows. They all died. I was I was ready to be a homesteader. I was ready for the apocalypse. I was ready for shit to blow up and go down. Instead, the Lord had different plans. He's like, you're not here to tend to crops, Elliott. You're not here to tend to cattle. You're here to tend to your heart. And the nearest extension of your heart is your family. So this is a time for healing, Elliott. And my children are young, and of course they were in different seasons of their life. But when they came here, things were difficult for a couple of them. They were going through their teenage girl shit. I'll tell you guys about that maybe another time. But I needed to get them away from the city. The Lord wanted them to prosper in the country. And we came out here, and my whole family had a 180. 180. I told you about my daughter, Isabel. She was struggling, all kinds of affliction. She's sensitive. She's a schizoid. That means they have low boundaries. Schizoids have low boundaries and they're easily manipulated, if not manipulating. She's a little bit of both. But she's just one example. But all four of them have gone through tremendous revolutions. They've changed so much, and so have I. They bloomed and they budded, and they've got their feet under them, and they're making their way in the world. Me, my legs got weak, my heart got soft. Pretty sure I got low T. Pretty sure I got low T. I'm locked up here at this house in the country with nothing but a bunch of women and my youngest son. And although he and I lift, it's still flooded with estrogen here. Flooded with estrogen. I was talking to my friend Ilko yesterday or the other day when he invited me for lunch when we were in Austin, and one of the things that we spoke about is like how I've been isolated. I've isolated myself here. I've been isolated. I thought I like isolation. In fact, I do like isolation. I like isolation. But because I'm not around other men, because I'm not lifting at gyms with other men, because I'm not a part of programs, because I have no friends. And that's not fair for me to say, because there are people that really do love me. And you know what the coolest thing is at this stage in my life where humility reigns? And I'm not calling myself humble like I'm trying to be humble. I've been fucking humbled. God has kicked my ass. You don't know a man until he gets kicked in the teeth. They say you're not a real G until you lose it all and build it back. And that's the path that many of us have to go through. I think, in fact, those that don't go through it, it's because they're living a lukewarm life, and the devil's got them right where he wants them. So there's no need for trouble. You just live in a lukewarm life. But the Lord had bigger plans. He's got bigger plans for me. I know he's got bigger plans for me. And I don't say that out of hope. I say that as like I just know who I am. And I also know the archetype of masculine development, and it requires a catabasis. In fact, if you go back on my Strength Camp YouTube channel and just look up Elliott Hulse catabasis, Katabis, catabasis, which is a Greek word for to go down into the dark place. I created a series where I knew I was going down into the dark place. I was going down into the dark place. And it took many forms. Injuries, drug use, and loss. But I'm so blessed. My wife's been with me through the whole thing, man. My wife never complains. She knows you just gotta let Elliott do what Elliott's doing, or let God do what God's doing through Elliott. But I've been in a catabasis. I made that series, I think it was 2016. It's 2027. And you guys have heard me talk about the 12-year cycles. Well, I'll tell you what, like each cycle itself has a theme. And this theme for me has been soul healing. Soul healing. I'm not the same. I'm not the same guy. I might not have the same charisma and confidence that I had because I've been humbled. I know that I'm not all that in a bag of chips. Not because I read it in the Bible, but because God showed me. He's like, listen, nigga, you can't do nothing without me. Jesus Christ said, I'm the branch, you are the vine. With me, you can't do nothing, man. Can't do nothing. I learned that. I learned that the hard way. And maybe you are going through a season right now where you're learning it the hard way. But remember, brother, remember, this is why I guess I'm back to show you the way out. See, young Elliott, although I had my challenges, coming through those challenges when you don't have much ain't that big a deal. I always told a story about being, $100,000 in debt and then building Strength Camp and becoming famous on YouTube. That was tough, but I was full of piss and vinegar. My testosterone was buzzing back then. I was a young man. I even took a little extra at certain times. But now I'm 47 and I'm $1 million in debt. See how the pattern repeats itself, only bigger? And I got more responsibilities. I don't have a townhouse in South St. Pete. I got 42 acres in rural Florida. This is not the time to go down. This is not the time for healing. This is not the time for what people will call a midlife crisis, but it's right on time. The midlife crisis is an opportunity to let go of the facade that you built when you were young. I really started experiencing it around the age 36, right at the top of the clock, division of 12. And guess what hour I'm in right now? 11. I'm in the 11th hour. And they say you can't change the player's game in the 11th inning. The game's been played. What was supposed to happen has happened, but it's coming to an end. It's coming to an end. And I believe it. I can see it. And I don't want to hide it. I've hidden this whole cocoon that I've been in with you. Even when I've come back and I've made videos, like they were all there. I look at them, even the videos from November, different series that I've done. Like I'm performing. I'm performing in those videos. I want you to like me. I want you to like the video. I want you to feel like you got something from it. I want you to feel like you got value from speaking with me, making videos. But it's all performance. Even like, and I know when it begins. It begins when I start looking at click-through rates. I'm like, I need to make better thumbnails. Then it's like, oh, the drop-off rate. I gotta make a better hook. One of the things I learned is not to do that anymore. I ain't gonna be doing that anymore. And there's a whole lot I want to talk to y'all about. And I will answer your questions again. Because I'm gonna run out of shit to say. But like there's shit going on every day that I can make videos about. I'm gonna be traveling here pretty soon, going camping with my son in the Appalachians. Maybe I'll make videos while we're camping. I don't know. I've always wanted to keep a boundary between what's going on in my real life and in my family and what I'm willing to show you guys. But that boundary is blurring a little bit, my kids are growing up, they're all basically adults. And I think a part of the reason why I hid a lot of that is because I wanted to protect them. Even though my being somewhat famous on YouTube hurt them some. I'll talk to you guys about like what YouTube did to my children, like the fact that I'm on YouTube. Some of the things I said like turned them away from me. I was betrayed. And I didn't want to share. I didn't want to share that. And I didn't, Anyway, that season's over. There's a brand new season. I'm here with y'all. And I'm looking forward to y'all, speaking with y'all. There's so many, I have a list already of things I'm going to be talking to y'all about, but I also want to be here for you because we're in this journey together. I'm only a leader in the fact that I go first. I'm premature. I'm a premature ejaculator. Blow my load first. Right? And that's just my nature. I go first. I run down the field and I break the wedge. So maybe I have something to offer you. Maybe I can give you some insights on what it looks like to crawl down the mountain, meet the cave door, walk into the cave and down through the catacombs, and then seeing the light, but just can't reach it. And that light, at the end of the tunnel, so far away, but it gives you hope because you can see it there. It's there. It's there. It's there. But you walk and you walk and you walk. And it's like, okay, the light's getting brighter. It's getting bigger. But I'm still going. I'm still going. And there's still obstacles. And even though I'm very close to walking out of the tunnel, even this requires discernment. Because it's not like, the way I imagined it, coming out of the tunnel will be like a volcano erupting. Boom, here I am, back on the scene. Checking me out, y'all. Rise to the top like that. Listen, if that happens, fine. But it makes no sense to go through the tunnel and come out at the other end the same as you were before. It's futile. It's a waste. And it's not like, a lot of the lessons were deeply ingrained. A lot of the lessons are in me, like I can't undo them, plus time. But a lot of them I have to remember. I got to remind myself, like, don't make this into a thing, like where I'm putting pressure on myself with these videos. And when I say pressure, it's like, do they like it? Are they watching it? What is the algorithm doing with my video? But that's not me in flow state. That's not authentic E. What you see is authentic E right here with you. So I'll show up again. I'll keep showing up. Checking the time behind me. Because this is an hour that I'm giving to me, for you, each day. Tomorrow's Wednesday. I'll be back.